Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for February 2nd of 2024, and currently we have a slight risk for a lot of central Texas into parts of western Texas. Threats for today do include the possibility of large hail with the possibility of significant hail in this hatch region, indicating that we may be able to see the potential of hail sizes upwards of 1 inch in diameter or greater with the 15% hail risk. This is going to be the primary risk that we are going to be going over in today's forecast for severe thunderstorms that we may see across this region. As for the secondary risks, we do have a 2% tornado risk, so we may be able to see the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes associated with the storms that we may see today. Then we also do have a 5% damaging wind risk, so we may be able to see the possibility of some isolated damaging wind gusts anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour. For tomorrow, we are looking at a marginal threat for parts of southeastern Texas around the Houston region across coastal Texas into parts of coastal Louisiana there. Threats for tomorrow do include a 2% tornado risk, a 5% wind risk, and a 5% hail risk. I'm not going to be going too in depth in that for today. And then we also do have a marginal threat for southern Florida on our day 3 outlook. As for today 8 outlook, we currently don't have anything issued as far as severe thunderstorms. The primary thing again that I'm going to be going over today is going to be the slight risk across central into western Texas. Taking a look at our excessive rainfall forecast for today, we do have a marginal threat for a lot of the eastern Texas region into central Oklahoma and even into parts of central Kansas there, where we may be able to see the possibility of some isolated flash flooding associated with the storms that we may have today. For tomorrow, we are expected to see a slight risk for southern regions of Louisiana and southern Mississippi, as well as a slight risk for coastal regions of California. But overall, as far as upcoming threats for flash flooding, the main thing I do want to talk about is going to be our day 3 and day 4 outlooks, where we do have a moderate threat for both our day 3 and day 4 outlooks for coastal regions of California. They're primarily close to the Los Angeles region, so we may be able to see some widespread flash flooding, with some areas maybe seeing significant flash flooding. That's going to be a big hazard for the Los Angeles region on our day 3 to day 4 outlooks. And then as far as winter weather outlooks, we may have the possibility of quite a bit of heavy snowfall across a lot of the Rockies. We can also take a look at our surface analysis. As of right now, we do have a prefrontal dry line that is going to be the main thing that is going to be firing up storms, so we shouldn't really have too much of an issue as far as heating with these storms, as it is going to be ahead of the cold front, so we shouldn't really see all that much of a risk of the cold front potentially cutting off heating to a lot of our storms, as a lot of our storms are expected to be developing along that dry line in the warm sector. That's going to be the primary triggering factor, and as storms move eastward, as the cold front picks it up, they should move across a lot of the Texas region, potentially extending into Oklahoma, and then they should move into a lot of the Mississippi River Valley by tomorrow. Taking a look at our weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars. Sorry about all the lines that we have everywhere. Just try to focus on the threat for severe thunderstorms across Texas for now. Again, sorry about all the lines that I kind of have all over the place. We are expected to see quite a strong trough with a low pressure system that is going to be back up into the Rockies, but it is rotating. It isn't just a static low pressure system, so it is developing cyclone genesis, and it is rotating, which should help with some things. It is also negatively tilted, so the base of that trough is going to be pushing the exit region, meaning more directional shear for the possibility of tornadoes. And you can see quite vigorous veering of the winds here, and we also do have split flow. However, overall, our mid-level flow, it could be a little bit better. Overall, we don't really have the best mid-level flow. It is around the 50 to 48 miles per hour. It's all right, but it could be a little bit better, and it is going to support the possibility for severe thunderstorms. One major aiding factor is going to be the fact that we have all these mountains across Mexico, and this trough is advecting over those mountains into a flat region. So those mountains should help quite a lot with elongated photographs, but we will have to look at 200 millibars and our 700 millibars for speed shear. But overall, we are seeing a quite decent trough and should definitely be able to support the possibility of severe thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes across this region. Taking a look at our 700 millibars in our low-level jet, I did turn off the warnings so you guys can see a little bit better, because there were kind of warnings all over the place, and I didn't want you to click off the video because of that, so I did turn off the warnings so you guys can see a little bit better across this region. But as far as the low-level jet goes at 700 millibars, our low-level jet's going to be a kind of a little bit iffy, but it is going to be cranking quite a lot. We are expected to see quite strong, not strong per se, but more decent to lower end low-level flow in the low level jet, we are expected to see 700 millibar flow that may be ranging anywhere from 50 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour, especially behind a lot of the storms, which won't really help, but may help drive them forward with stronger speeds or greater speeds, potentially upwards of 50 to potentially 60 miles per hour behind that line of storms that we are expected to see. So overall, our low level jet could be a little bit better, and it may not be all that supportive of a lot of shear across this region, but it should definitely provide us with enough shear for at least the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. But we are still going to look at 200 millibars for the possibility of speed shear across this region. Taking a look at our pivotal weather models, mainly our 200 millibars real quick, so we can get an idea of what our wind speeds may look like at 200 millibars and how that may affect our speed shear coming off the mountains. Again, the mountains are going to be a huge aiding factor here, but we are expected to see mostly zonal flow in the 200 millibars. What we are looking for is kind of that split flow where it kind of creates a void in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and because of that, it will use the mid-levels and low-level air to rise upward and fill that void in the upper levels, and that's how you get wide-scale synoptic lift. So that's primarily what we look for as far as 200 millibars, but we aren't really going to have that all that much. I mean, there is a little bit of split flow, but overall it's not really too much. That's anything, not really anything too much that's going to be noticeable for severe thunderstorms for today. The main thing that we are seeing as far as 200 millibars is going to be the stronger flow that's going to be further down to the south, potentially getting upwards of 100 knots in southern Texas, and that is where our hatched region for the possibility of significant hail is, and that's where we should see significantly elongated photographs compared to the rest of the environment. And again, that's where we are expected to be watching for the primary risk for significant hail. Taking a look at our composite reflectivity and the timing of our storms, and generally when and where you are expected to see our severe thunderstorms across this region, as well as our simulated radar analysis as far as the storms themselves. So let's start off with the timing. We are expected to see those storms developing now, actually around 5 p.m. along that dry line across western Texas, which is going to be around 4 p.m. EST, Central Time. Those are expected to rapidly organize across the slight risk region into kind of a broken line extending from the Oklahoma border down to southern Texas around 10 p.m. tonight, which is going to be around 9 p.m. tonight across central Texas. And then that is going to kind of organize as it moves towards more central Texas, towards the Dallas region, and extend down up into Oklahoma. Some widespread rain showers and potentially some more spotty rain showers further north. And again, we are still going to be watching for the possibility of large hail, the possibility of isolated damaging wind gusts, and the potential for 1 or 2 brief tornadoes with this line as it moves towards Dallas. And this is expected to impact Dallas around 1 to 2 a.m., so around midnight to 1 a.m. Tonight, and then that is expected to move into expected to rapidly disorganize as we lose the majority of our instability overnight in the early morning, as it moves into eastern parts of Texas around the very early morning, so around 4 to 5 a.m., and moves into the Mississippi River Valley. And then as far as the radar analysis, overall, again, we are seeing that line that we were expected to see our storms develop into quite rapidly across central Texas. However, a lot of models a while ago, like 1 or 2 days back, were indicating that we were supposed to have a little bit more of a crazy setup where we're going to have a combination of linear, a combination of scattered, and a combination of discrete mode, and we may still have that. Overall, we are expected to see the main convective mode be mainly linear with a lot of these storms, but we may have to watch for the possibility of some scattered storms that may develop ahead of this line, potentially some more isolated storms that are going to carry the same potential of damaging wind gusts, the potential for large hail potentially being significant further down towards San Antonio, as well as the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. Taking a look at our bulk shear at our 0 to 6 kilometers and how much speed shear we are expected to see across this region. Of course, we are expected to see the possibility of some hail potentially extend as far north as southern Oklahoma here. But again, the main region that we are expected to be watching for hail is going to be this hatched region for southern central Texas, just to the west of San Antonio. We are expected to see quite a bit more speed shear than the rest of the environment because we do have much stronger upper level flow, which is going to be leading to more elongated photographs and more of a potential for hail, again, potentially it being significant. But overall, as far as bulk shear, we are expected to see quite a lot of bulk shear, upwards of 70 knots to potentially 80 knots of bulk shear across southern Texas, which is definitely going to be more than enough to support the possibility of some significant hail across this region. So again, we may be able to see the possibility of hail that may be 1 inch in diameter or greater. And then we can also take a look at what we may be looking for as far as the directional shear across this environment, the possibility of tornadoes. Again, our low-level jet is expected to be potentially a little bit more of a limiting factor when it comes to the potential for tornadoes across this region. So our low-level jet may be a little bit more on the weaker end side and may not support a lot of directional shear. However, we are expected to have directional shear with a synoptic setup that we do have. And again, it's going to be a little bit more on the lower end side of things. We are expected to see quite a bit of directional shear. This is going to be, again, a little bit more on the lower end side of things, that may be ranging from 100 to 200 meters squared a second squared of 0 to 3 kilometers for relative velocity. However, down towards southern Texas, we may be able to see a little bit more directional shear, as we do have those the stronger wind gusts in our upper level setup further down towards southern Texas, which may provide us with a little bit more directional shear, and we may have to watch for the possibility of maybe a little bit more of a greater threat for tornadoes further down south. But overall, for the vast majority of the region, we are expected to see, again, a little bit more of a lower end threat for tornadoes. Taking a look at our dew points across this region, as well as the dry line that storms have already fired across, and the warm sector, we are expected to see quite a bit of moisture across this region. We are expected to see some alright dew points upwards of the 60s, the low 60s mainly. The dew points are looking a little bit lower than what models were originally indicating earlier today. They were indicating it extending a little bit more further towards the north. However, we are still seeing some fairly decent moisture nonetheless, and it should definitely provide us with enough instability for severe thunderstorms. But along the dry line, you can see a quite sharp dry line between dew points in the upper 50s to dew points that are going to be in the mid and upper 40s. So again, storms are expected to fire across that, and because the cold front is expected to be further behind, storms should really have no problem with heat overall across this dry line. So the temperature shouldn't be really all that much of an issue when it comes to storm development. But we are expected to see moisture that may be able to extend as far north as southern Nebraska, with dew points as high as the low 50s. So again, we are seeing quite a bit of moisture across this region, but the vast majority of it should be across Texas and should be fairly decent. Taking a look at our temperatures across this region, mainly across the dry line, when storms originally did fire, they have already fired along that dry line and are currently ongoing. However, they, I don't think, have entered the slight risk region yet and have used up a lot of that instability. So we are still fairly new in this in the severe thunderstorm event. We are seeing temperatures along that dry line in the initial environment that they did fire up in around the 70s, potentially getting close to the upper 70s, which is definitely going to be fairly decent, providing with quite a bit of instability. However, one major uncertainty is going to be how are these storms going to act when it goes later into tonight into the actual slight risk region after the sun has set, because we are expected to see a major temperature drop that is going to be bringing temperatures down to the low 60s and even into the 50s, I think, in some regions. But overall, our temperatures may be a little bit lower than what we were anticipating and may lead to a little bit less instability, which we may have to watch for. But overall, temperatures in the 60s, again, may have to be watched, but are going to be fairly decent and provide us with at least some instability to support severe thunderstorms. Hopping back over to pivot weather so we can take a look at our lapse rates across this region. We actually finally have lapse rates for once with one of our severe thunderstorm events. We are expected to see lapse rates that are going to be getting upwards of the 6s to potentially the 7s and even up to the 8s potentially, which is definitely going to help with instability quite a lot across this region and should definitely help with the overall the strength of storms and potentially overall organization of storms. So the presence of lapse rates upwards of the 8s is definitely going to help quite a lot across this region, because again, a lot of last month, whenever we did have the possibility of severe thunderstorms last month, we usually didn't have any lapse rates whatsoever. So finally seeing lapse rates with the threat for severe thunderstorms is quite a breather, because this is definitely going to help with instability quite a lot, even if we have a little bit lower end temperatures across this region. Taking a look at our convective inhibition, I did choose an earlier model run. I am currently on the 15Z or H triple R models, so we can take a look at the convective inhibition before storms actually initiated along that dry line, because the most recent model run that I was using already had storms developing. So taking a look at the convective inhibition that we have across this region, again, this is quite strong convective inhibition. Negative 300 is very strong convective inhibition. So if that cap were to break, it is going to wildly help with the overall explosiveness of storms across this region. And because it did break, should definitely make storms quite explosive and should definitely help instability build quite a lot underneath that cap when it is eventually released by those storms. So again, this convective inhibition should help a ton and may even potentially help prevent any wild storms developing ahead of that line of storms, which should allow for a little bit better storms associated with that line that may progress across Texas. Finally culminating this together, so we can take a look at our three types of instability: our most unstable cape, our surface cape, and our 0 to 3 kilometer cape. Starting off with our most unstable cape and the overall how much instability we are expected to see across this region as a whole. We are expected to see quite a bit of instability with cape values that may be able to reach upwards of the mid 1000s. I will tell you this, mesoanalysis, a lot of the recent mesoanalysis runs on the SBC website was indicating that we may have instability that may even reach 2000 to potentially even 2500 across this region, which is going to be more than enough for severe thunderstorms across this region. Even just cape values upwards of 1400 is going to be enough for severe thunderstorms regardless, and the potential for not only large hail, potentially significant hail, potential for 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region, as well as the potential for some isolated damaging wind gusts. Taking a look at our surface instability, you can see that almost nothing has changed from our most unstable cape, as a lot of the most unstable cape is expected to translate down to the surface level. So the storm should have absolutely no problem tapping into that surface instability and becoming surface-based instead of elevated. However, one thing I do want to mention is that as storms do move into the Dallas region, more so into the marginal threat area, with that line of storms still progressing through the southern slide risk area, where we shouldn't have to worry about instability too much around the very early morning hours, but as it does move into the marginal threat area, we are expected to see a significant drop in the instability overnight, as cape values may reach down to the triple digits, which is going to lead to overall that significant decrease in the potential for severe thunderstorms as we move closer to eastern Texas. Taking a look at our 0 to 3 kilometer instability, I do take a look at our 0 to 3 kilometer instability on any severe weather day, because with cold core events, don't get me wrong, this is not a cold core event in any way, because we do have strong most unstable cape. 0 to 3 kilometer cape can fuel severe thunderstorm threats just by itself without the presence of strong most unstable cape, so that's why I do take a look at it just to back up the threat for severe thunderstorms. And you can see that we do have very decent 0 to 3 kilometer cape, upwards of 100 joules per kilogram, potentially getting close to 120, 130 joules per kilogram in the slide risk area, and it should also increase along a lot of the boundaries between outflow, along a lot of those outflow boundaries, which overall I kind of don't really look at because it is a little bit more contaminated because it is an outflow boundary, but overall in the initial area for storms, we should see quite a bit of ample 0 to 3 kilometer cape, which should overall help aid in the threat for severe thunderstorms. Hopping back over to the SBC mesoanalysis page so we can get an idea of our large hail parameter, mainly focusing on the hatched area for significant hail. You can currently see that we do have upwards of a 16 on our large hail parameter, which again is definitely going to be indicative of the possibility of potentially significant hail, meaning that we may be able to have hail across a lot of this region that may reach upwards of 1 inch or greater. So we may see some pretty large hail across this region, and then we are expected to see the potential for at least some large hail that may extend further down into southern Texas, as well as up into potentially up into central Texas. However, our large hail perimeter isn't really extending that far north. We can also take a look at our other hail parameters here, like our significant hail parameter, where we do have a I think an 8 there. I can't really see it too well. And then we can also take a look at our hail size, which our meso-analysis is indicating that we may have upwards of 2 inches across this region, and then maybe even potentially getting close to an inch. I'm not sure how accurate these models are because I've never used them before, but again, they are indicating that we may have the potential for hail being greatest across the significant hash area, watching for the potential for very large hail and the potential for hail that may extend close to the Oklahoma border. So again, I haven't used these models, so I'm still trying some things out with them, but they are a very good indicator of our hail risk. Taking a look at our energy helicity index value so we can get an idea of what our tornado risk may look like across this region. Again, look towards southern Texas, where that hash area for hail may be. Where I did mention previously, we may have to watch for potentially a better risk for tornadoes. This was also supported by the other model run that I was looking at 19Z, where we may have to watch for the potential for a little bit more of a greater potential for tornadoes further down towards southern Texas, but we should see some energy helicity index values that may even extend up across western Oklahoma, where we will have to watch for the potential for 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. But again, we may have to watch the southern 2% tornado risk more than anything. Taking a look at our damaging wind gust models, or our wind gust models at our surface level, to get an idea of what we may see as far as damaging wind gusts across this region. Again, we are expected to see more of a possibility for some isolated damaging wind gusts across this region, potentially upwards of 50 to potentially 40 miles per hour across this region. Some areas may see stronger wind gusts than others, but overall, the threat for damaging wind gusts may be a little bit more on the isolated side, and we should see probably damaging wind gusts that may stay around 40 to 50 miles per hour. I'm still a little bit on the edge on how accurate our damaging wind gust models are, but they are definitely indicating that we are expected to see some isolated damaging wind gusts around 40 to 50 miles per hour across this region. Before I end the video, I do want to talk about the GoFundMe real quick for Project Gladiator. Project Gladiator is for the sole purpose to turn a Jeep Gladiator into an absolutely insane storm-chasing beast that will gather data and information from inside of the strongest tornadoes, some of the most violent tornadoes, upwards of EF5 in strength. If you do want to donate towards the cause and potentially help with meteorological breakthroughs, please consider donating. The link is in the description. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas I covered for today, please do weather alert for the time being. If you notice anything might have been wrong with this forecast, or you'd like to make a suggestion or ask a question, please leave a comment. 2 other channels I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather and Weather Watcher. Weather Watcher does do forecasts for Europe if you are interested in those, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys on Sunday with a weekly overlook.